Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad to have you join us today. Happy New Year, all. I am Lydia Womack. I'm the Director of Marketing for Infinity, and we're just so delighted to have you here today. Real quick, before we get started, I do want to point out the chat section. So please hop in chat, introduce yourselves, ask all the questions you want. We will do our best to answer any and all of them. We'll do a little Q&A after. Also, and then if there's anything we don't get to, we will shoot you an email afterwards. But again, so thrilled to have you all here today. We wanted to kick off 2023 with this topic because it's a fresh time to think about what is coming up in the year ahead, what we want to accomplish. And there's just no better way to set your team up for success than by creating custom training. Personalized training can sound overwhelming, but it really doesn't have to be. And it is so essential for building an efficient team, a team that feels confident and prepared, drivers who know what is going on with their equipment and their policies and know what to expect from you. So it's just such an essential area when it comes to your training program. And we have talked a lot internally about how easy it should be to create custom content, but then how overwhelming it can seem. So we have invited our friend Keith Long to join us today to talk about some of the tips and tricks that he's learned. He has been in the trucking industry for a decade or so, and a trainer for a long time, and really knows the ins and outs of creating personalized training that speaks to a specific role. And so we were thrilled to have you here, Keith. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to take it away.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you all could make it for this. I'll go ahead and switch screens here, and I'll bring you guys up on the PowerPoint. So the topic that we're talking about. Can you see that okay?
Yep. No.
Good deal. And share.
Great.
Awesome. Well, like Lydia said, my name is Keith Long. I refer to myself as the transportation nerd, as do many of my colleagues. I have been in the industry professionally for about a decade at this point, but grew up in transportation, and it's really something near and dear to my heart. My dad drove for 25 years, and that's really where I got started on it. That was my bread and butter, so to say. Custom training content is a big part of my job currently. I'm a training programs manager, and a lot of my day-to-day is determining specific topics that we want to host training on or create training on, and then figuring out a roadmap on how to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And it is something, like you said there, Lydia, it is something that on the surface does seem daunting, right? And that's because you're seeing the end process, right? You're not seeing the beginning and what goes into it. So we're going to talk about how to make it easy, how to make it doable. And essentially, if you can post a TikTok video, or you can make an Instagram post or a Facebook post, then you can create custom training. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to talk about here is the why, right? Creating custom training cost-wise, and we'll get more into this here in just a few minutes. It costs less to create custom training yourself than it does to outsource that training, to go to a company that comes to you and creates a training using their resources. A lot of off-the-shelf training programs is exactly what an organization may need for foundational training. But as we get into customized training solutions, you can really suit your training better for specific topics and meet your organization's specific needs. Other benefits here, you can put a face with a name. One thing that we've been seeing a lot of lately is companies taking their dispatchers or driver managers and having them create an introduction video, right? Because as a smaller carrier, you might get to see your drivers every day, but bigger carriers, you may have a dispatcher that never formally gets to meet their driver in person. And what a better way to do that. You can also utilize existing subject matter experts in your company, foster that training and development culture, and open up new career paths. So this is something that I know personally for me started as just a one-man band, but has since opened up into really its own silo, right? A whole slew of jobs that, we collaborate together and work together hand in hand with safety and figuring out what we need.
That's got to have a huge impact on safety culture across the company when you're having those conversations with colleagues and other departments and really reminding them, the value of this area.
Right. And I can say, from personal experience, it does push that safety agenda. It is easy in transportation to get it locked into that mindset that the load is the priority, right? Getting to that shipper receiver is the priority. But we have to remember the lives that we have holding the steering wheel on the other side of that, right? And the safety aspect that goes into it. And ultimately, right, if training fails, CSA points are going to go up, right? We can promise that. And if that happens, then we all fail, right? So it's in our best interest and minds to find different ways to communicate with our drivers and find different ways to push safety out to them. So we'll talk here about focus areas, right? Common topics that I find myself creating are vehicle inspection procedures, company-specific environmental health and safety plans, but there's also opportunities for getting HR involved in the process, right? Onboarding and company culture, corrective action training. A big one is post-accident training. In general, there are, let's say, an endless amount of topics that we can really get into. I think some of the most value placed is going to be around driver proficiency focused content. It on average takes 2 minutes to film a quality video, right? If you're doing it yourself, if you can point and click with a cell phone, you can create a video, right? So I spend a majority of my time talking about inspecting critical items on the vehicle that lead to the most points on roadside inspections. Come to find that in general, there are many drivers who don't know what to look for when inspecting things. They just know they need to inspect it, right? I know that on my DVIR, it says I need to inspect my steering components, but does that really break down what I'm looking for when I'm talking about, steering arm, pitman arm, drag link, what is how do I inspect a castle nut and cotter pin? Those type of things are where we can, take those learning gaps, right? And fill them in and make our drivers more proficient. A great place to start and where I like to look is to look at your common CSA infractions, whether that's looking annually. Right now we're in January. One of the biggest things going on transportation-wise right now is what is the weather doing out on the road, right? Our biggest inhibitor to transportation right now are snowy and icy roads, or just in general changes in weather patterns that slows down our drivers, that slows down delivery times, that changes delivery windows. But on top of that, we also have an opportunity to look at what things are coming in inspections and infractions. So I look at our CSA, right? Last year, what was happening, what was trending? Last month, what was trending, right? If I'm seeing a lot of chafing hoses and lines, if I'm seeing, things like headlamp where required, inoperable, or ABS light or unsecured fire extinguisher, you name it, those things that are coming across CSA are an opportunity to get proactive, right, about your training. Because one of our biggest problems is being reactive, right? A driver gets into an accident. Okay, now we have to prevent that accident from happening again. But if we start looking at these trends, that gives us the opportunity to be proactive and prevent it before it happens, or at least that's the goal, right? Questions so far? About to get to more of the technical aspect of creating custom content.
Nothing yet, unless anybody wants to pop in now. I think this is the meat of what we're here for, the technical part, because it seems so overwhelming, and you're right. It shouldn't have to be, everyone has a cell phone nowadays with a camera on it. Everyone has, Word or PowerPoint. So, okay, teach us what you know.
All right. So cost associated, industry standard right now, outsourcing a video to a content creation company, $1,500 to $10,000 per finished minute of video, which is, I mean, insane, right? And that's not even talking about edits afterwards, right? Sometimes that's extra cost with these companies. So this is where you really have an opportunity. And like I said earlier, if you can hold a cell phone, you can create a video. So when I first started, in general, I made all of the mistakes. Thought I needed the fancy equipment. Thought I needed the amazing mics, the brand name cameras, the Nikons, the Canons. What's popular across my Facebook feed, that's the stuff I'm going to pick, right? Because that's got to be the best. It's great, but it ultimately, at the end of the day, at some point, those things become obsolete, right? Nobody's putting out regular updates for your Canon camera. Nobody's putting out regular updates for your soundboard or microphone. But things that do receive regular updates are your cell phone, right? Consistent, regular updates. We kind of look at cell phones as that middle of the road, and we'll talk about that some more here in just a few minutes. But back to cost, in-house cost of creating content. So looking at things like annual cost of software, existing resources, a good computer, because that standard office computer probably isn't going to cut it, and a compressor microphone, and that's primarily for doing voice over PowerPoints. All of this you can do for under $2,000. But again, and I want to stress here, you don't have to go that far with it. You can simply record a video on your phone and upload it. So over the next group of things that we're going to talk about here, if you are taking notes, don't panic. I have a PDF kind of handout that'll be a part of this as well. It summarizes a lot of the equipment that I use, why I use it, why it's important. One thing that really is, I guess, the primary cost is a good computer, right? A computer that is gaming or editing laptop. And in general, there are a few brands I trust here, and you can see them here on the screen. I recommend in general, work with your IT department. They're probably going to give you more than you need. So, work with what you have in-house and the availability. Who knows, you might be able to upgrade a pre-existing resource and cut out that cost entirely. A cell phone, and when I say cell phone, smartphone, right? A lot of smartphones will be able to capture what you need and create that good content. And the reason we go with these is that it is the best of both worlds. So when it comes to recording equipment, most cell phones have active adjustment, stabilization and filming. They're going to select the best lighting for the environment. Microphones on smartphones are going to typically cancel out wind. They're going to cancel out external noise and focus on really where you're pointing the camera. You can get additional microphones that'll help you cut out some wind noise on the cell phone if you're going to be outside a lot. But in general, that cell phone is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And then, of course, the benefit here is that your cell phone's connected to a network. So typically, when I get done recording a video on that cell phone, I can then upload that directly into OneDrive and access it from my computer, right? I can edit it from there. I can add it to YouTube, add it to Infinity right from there. But the benefit here is that by the time I walk back inside from filming a video, if I've already started the process, it's uploaded to my drive before I get to my desk, right? Design tools. Right, here's the three primary ones that I use, and all the heavy lifting here really for me is done with Wondershare, which is by a company called Filmora. Wondershare, I believe I got my lifetime license for them. So this is where you really really look at. If you're buying an editing software, pay attention to when the lifetime licenses come through. I'll tell you, the Christmas gifting season is a good time to catch that. That's when I got mine. So if I remember right, I think I spent about $100 actually to get this for a lifetime with lifetime upgrades. But we're going to go over kind of some videos of these, what they look like, and how to use them in a minute here. Video Scribe's another one. This is a whiteboard software. So if you've ever seen one of those videos where somebody's drawing a picture along the screen and you're going, holy moly, this guy's really good. How does he draw these pictures? How does he move his hand that fast?
Always wondered.
Right. You don't have to be an expert at drawing. You don't have to be an artist, right? All of those animations are preloaded, which is really cool, right? So you type in, house, right? That drawing of a house is already there. So we're really just assembling a sentence with pictures.
Great.
Fantastic. Adobe Creative, if you want to get really fancy, and to be honest, most companies already have, or at least bigger carriers already have an existing license for Adobe. Somebody in your company does, more than likely with HR and training. And then if you're going to do any voiceover PowerPoints, I recommend a good compressor mic. You don't have to go super brand name or anything like that, but these are going to be good USB powered compressor microphone. And that's actually what I'm using right now. So it's hearing me talking at clarity that's just off of a simple compressor microphone, or if I'm being honest, a gaming microphone, because they work really well. They cut out a lot of the extra background noise. Let's talk design tools. So we kind of touched on this a little bit. So the first one here is Wondershare, and it is very much a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get type of product, right? Everything's right in front of you. It's drag and drop. You've got background audio, you've got titles, introductions, all that kind of there available at your fingertips, right? So we've got a primary area where we can go in, upload or add in our videos that we've created and drop those right in. And then from there, we can add those into the timeline and go through editing them, right? So we can add overlay. You can take things out, you can take sound out, everything like that. It's really easy to do. And I could probably sit here telling you how to use this product till the end of the day, but everything I'm showing you has tutorials available online. So here's really what the benefit is. I became proficient at using any and all of this by going to YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. There are endless tutorials available on YouTube, right? So something as simple as, how do I fade a video in Wondershare, right? If you can type it, you can find it on YouTube and how to do it. I'm convinced anybody can become a master of any skill or career if they know how to search in YouTube well enough. Questions?
We've had some great tips, actually, and this is kind of before the editing stage. So when you're using your cell phone, Robinson said, put it in landscape mode, because it really helps you down the road with editing.
Yes.
And I know our video production team always tells us when we're shooting our novice videos that's outside of their scope, they're like, okay, just if you're going to hold your phone, please just like lock your elbows into your sides so you can hold it steady, like be your own tripod.
Yep.
Any other tips on just getting the best steady or best lighting with a cell phone?
Yep. So that is one thing that typically is going to come, or just going to be one of your biggest problems, right? Aside from yourself, you may have that holding the cell phone discipline, right? But say if I've got a maintenance personnel that I want to film a certain process in their shop, we're not in the same location.
Yep.
You may get a video that's vertical if you didn't communicate it ahead of time. So if you are inviting somebody else into the fold of, filming or recording video, it's very important that you communicate that first and foremost. right? Holding that cell phone still. And within most cell phones, there's a stabilization option, right? So that's going to counteract any of that extra movement that you may have without distorting the video and confusing or disorienting anybody that's watching it. But great tips, and yes, extremely important, because you want to be able to work with as much area as possible. You want to be able to crop in where you can. You want to be able to move in the video as needed. And if you're just going portrait, that up and down, you don't have that availability, right? You don't have that extra. Not to mention, you've got 2 black lines on either side of the video, so you've really cut out just the entire thing. Video Scribe here, this is the other one that I was talking about. So this is that drafting or whiteboard software. Really easy. Type in what you want an image of, and it brings it up for you. And from there, you can narrate, you can voice over. This one's really great because you can actually voice over in the software itself. And then this last one here is Audacity. This is a free resource, so I highly recommend downloading it. And this is one that I use directly for voiceover PowerPoints. The voiceover utility in PowerPoint isn't always that great. You might not get the best quality of audio, even though you're using the right equipment. So typically I'll use Audacity and then upload them as audio clips into PowerPoint if I'm going that way, right? You can export each piece as its own file, and of course, tons of different file options here for you, but really easy and straightforward. And again, like I said, if you have any questions, you need to know how to do it, right? YouTube is your best friend. Publishing tools. So once we've got a video created, we've got to put it somewhere, right? We want to put it in the driver's hand. Of course, my primary go-to is Infinity, right? Putting the power of training in the driver's hands, right? I can have a driver that's on a truck that I need to take a specific training. I can send that to their onboard, ELD. If you've got a new one that offers, application options, we can do in-class training, things like that. But the new custom content tool is endlessly useful. In just a few short clicks, you can put content into there and add questions to it. And there's even default question settings if you don't need to add a whole lot into there. So prior to that, though, I personally use YouTube, and I use it for a few different reasons. Primary reason that I put things on YouTube is because I'm putting the storage of that file on their server, right? I'm not having to overload the space that I have with Infinity. I'm not having to overload what I have personally on my system. I can put this on YouTube servers and access it as I need to. And just because I put it on there doesn't mean that it goes public, right? So I use the unlisted option all the time for all of my videos. So people can't go search for it, but it's already there. And if you have the link, it goes to it. And then you just use that link with the custom content tool within Infinity. Mm-hmm. So some freebies here. The other thing that YouTube does is they do built-in copyright checks. So the last thing you want to do is create content that you've taken a snippet from somebody else's video, right? We don't want any copyright claims. And all those things that are not copyright covered, we call those royalty free, right? So YouTube looks to see if you have any of that information in there. And the important thing to know here is that YouTube gives you 2 strikes, right? Just 2. The first one to let you know, hey, that's not cool. You can't steal somebody else's stuff. The next one is, hey, you're suspended for a while.
Okay, so not the first place you want to go to check, but it'll catch it for you.
Right. So if you try to publish it there, right. So the reason I use it is just kind of a secondary or background, option to make sure that I haven't accidentally picked up something. And to aid in that are these 3 sites that I use that you can see on your screen right now, right? So for music, video, and images, I use these 3. As a matter of fact, any and all of the images that you've seen during my training today, every single one is royalty free, which to me, right, that's a stress reliever. So bensound.com, endless music available there. You name it, it's an option, right? Download, add into your trainings. Videos and images from Pixabay might not have everything that you need, but it's going to have quite a bit. And if it doesn't, it's not that hard to create something, right? Don't be afraid to create an extra clip that you need to add into your video. And then Unsplash here is also for those images. Now, except for Bensound, these other 2, Pixabay and Unsplash, those are both built into the Wondershare platform, which again is why I use it. I can search through there and search their library without ever having to leave my primary desktop on the computer. So that's royalty free, not one that you want to mess up. Keep that in mind and make sure that if you do have somebody else creating custom content for you, that they are not sourcing content off of YouTube, right? Just because it's there doesn't mean it's free. Okay, so primarily that's what I've got on creating custom content. And again, I really want to stress that it is less complicated than you think it is. Honestly, aside from, you know, all the editing tools and everything like this that I'm talking about, if you can use your cell phone, if you can point and click, you can create a video. And the most important piece of that is remembering, right? Hold that video sideways, or that phone sideways in landscape view when you're recording. But in general, take a topic that you want to talk about, right? Whether that's CSA or, you know, things that you're trying to prevent or trainings that you want to put out there. So take that topic, storyboard it, right? Draw it out. What does each piece look like? Okay, I'm going to need scenes. I'm going to need different things to happen in this video. What does that story look like? How do I record it, and upload it, right? So really 5 simple steps for the entire process.
I'm guessing that one of the easiest mistakes to make is to try to be a director, try to overdo it, try to put in too much, try to make it fancy, or even try to cover too many topics at once.
Right. You have to make it downloadable, right? And I mean, for the end user, you don't want to overdo it, and you don't want to garble it up with things that are catchy to the eye, but detract from the message. At the end of the day, I'd rather create a training that didn't look so great, but the message was delivered, than the other way around, right? That our goal is that our end user absorbs the information that we're sending to them.
Yep. That's great. Now, what about beyond video? Because video is obviously, it's engaging, it's talking about the end user. It's something that everyone responds to more strongly than, say, a Word document or a PowerPoint, but those are both really fantastic tools. And I did notice the other day when I pulled up my PowerPoint that there's now a record button, so you can record a voiceover as you're giving a presentation.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on best practices for training using either of those methods?
Yeah, so common term are one-page learners, or OPLs, right? That's taking a specific topic and how can I condense this into a single page or a single PDF and use that for recurring training, right? Stuff that we can either put internally as a resource in Infinity for a driver to look at, or something that could be printed off and posted up on walls at terminals and shop locations that a driver is going to see in their day-to-day, right? The biggest thing to remember with those is find a way to make it memorable, right? It's, memory minders. Can you create an anagram out of it that a driver is going to hold on to? Figure out ways that they're going to hold on to it so that when they see that, they remember that task. And of course, repetition is key there, right? If you're going to put those out, don't just make it a one-time thing, right? We build proficiency by increasing interaction, right? So if we want somebody to be proficient at something, we're not just going to give it to them and then expect them to be proficient at it, right? Those check-ins are important. Those follow-ups are important. And that's, again, when you're using the custom content tool with Infinity, making sure that you're putting questions afterwards to confirm and ensure that information is being delivered or downloaded.
Yeah. Yeah. And we always like to talk about the example in our boot camp, the example of, telling your teenager to take out the trash once and expecting them to do it all year. It's not going to happen. So reminders are critical. And, that's not to say that we're all kids at heart, although maybe some of us are, but reminders are just so essential. And we definitely subscribe to frequent and consistent training to change behaviors and enforce the behaviors that you want to see. We always suggest at minimum monthly training, and that it's okay to circle back to topics that you're trying to reinforce time and again. Now, maybe you don't want to hit that every single week, the same topic, but come back to it for sure. Do you have any recommendations on that front?
So to that, I think seasonal training is extremely important. There are topics annually that we talk about. I'm not just talking about our 4 seasons or 5 if we're including construction, but it's important to have those seasonal topics that you come back to. So if that's not parking on the side of the road, if that's winter weather safety, CSA things to watch out for, specifically DOT blitzes, road blitzes, driver safety week, brake initiative weeks, right? Those are the type of things that we want to make that reoccurring content to make sure our drivers are staying proficient, to make sure they're staying on top of those important skills that are key to doing their job every day. So I think one of the best things that you can do for the drivers is putting out inspection videos. And that's a big one to me. We have conversations with drivers and they know how to inspect their vehicle, but really if we go out and stand with them and say, tell me about your tire, what things am I looking for, right? We're looking for inflation, we're looking for tire threading, we're looking for low tread in certain spots, right? Fun fact, the DOT considers any tire that is less than 50% inflation as flat, right? So that's right. A fun fact, but if we don't put that out there, right, then the driver doesn't know it. So those are your opportunities. How do we get beyond just telling them that they need to do it, right? They have to be informed. They have to know how. And we really have a generation right now of instant gratification, right? That's getting into the industry, that's driving our trucks, right? So making sure that training is catchy, making sure that they pay attention and they retain it is getting harder to do every day. So make it useful, make it valuable, and make it so they can retain it.
Okay, so my last question, I think, it's overwhelming to start thinking about, okay, what do I tackle first? What's going to be the most helpful for my team? Where would you point somebody? What would you recommend when they're trying to figure out which custom training they're going to develop first?
Yeah, so I think even kind of back to the same point is inspection material, right? At the end of the day, if a driver gets a CSA violation, it's your CSA violation too, right? Your CSA scores tick up when drivers get violations. So go to your FMCSA portal, look at your inspections that have been coming in for the prior months or so. What's your trending violations? What's coming up the most? Those are the things that you need to hit on. If you're seeing flat tired, fabric exposed, or audible air leak, then that's what you need to talk about. And you need to figure out the why behind that violation. It's a good idea to reach out to your drivers and ask them how to communicate these topics, or ask them where this is falling short, right? As an office employee, I cannot guarantee 100% of the time that what I'm providing is going to be in a manner that the driver understands, right? So it's best to include them in on that process. But I would say hands down, best place to start, look at your CSA, look at what's coming in commonly and use that as a driving force for your training.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So we actually do have a dashboard now within Infinity that pulls in the public CSA scores and lets you kind of think proactively about that. There are many other tools outside of Infinity that I know give you much more detail, but that's just a nice at a glance look at trends over time and gives you a chance to kind of assess within the training space, within that headspace, okay, what do I need to address the most? Our client success team is happy to sit down and talk through that and make some suggestions on content that we have, but also talk through best practices we've seen from other clients and go from there. We want to see everybody, build out a training program that's going to be effective. And so often the common sense approach is the right way, and starting with numbers is a great way to start. So if anyone would like to see the custom content uploader in action, it is already on Infinity. You can upload your own custom content. As always, you can also just send it to us and we will take care of it for you. But sometimes you want to do it yourself and we get that. So you can do that. It's live. If you are a client, you can get on there and play with it now. Or I'm happy to have your client success team walk it through with you. And if you are not a client of ours, please come over, take a look. We'd love to have you. Keith, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. I didn't see any other questions in chat, but we would sure be glad to take some more questions if anybody has them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, this is kind of my bread and butter and things I like to do, right? I enjoy training. Training is a ever learning process, both for the student and the instructor. So yeah, absolutely. Feel free to ask questions here or get a hold of me at the transportationnerd@gmail.com. I'm always available.
Great. We will circulate the presentation and your email address just for any follow-up. And thank you all again. Everyone, Happy New Year, happy training. Be safe out there, and we'll see you. Oh, Keith will be back in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about roadside inspections. So please join us then if you haven't signed up yet. All right, everybody, take care.